All right, we are very excited to be here today with Rip Esselstyn. Now, Rip is a New York Times bestselling author and the creator of the Engine 2 diet, which is a plant-based diet that has helped save the lives of his firefighting crew in Austin, Texas, and has gone on to help tens of thousands of people around the world transition to a plant-based diet for optimal health. Now, Rip is an incredible educator. He performs live events. He does online education. He's got books. He's got a healthy food line, as you can see right behind him. He is an absolute machine. Rip has written 4 books: The Engine 2 Diet, Plant Strong, Discover the World's Healthiest Diet, The Engine 2 7-Day Rescue Diet, and The Engine 2 Cookbook. He was featured in the documentary Forks Over Knives, and he's a strong advocate of a plant strong diet, and which is a term that he coined to describe a diet that's rich in plant foods and devoid of meat, fish, eggs, dairy, and processed food. Rip is also an athlete. He was a collegiate swimmer and a pro triathlete. Rip, thank you so much for being here today with us.
You got it. My men, Robbie and Cyrus.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so Rip, you got an amazing story. I love listening to it. So why don't you tell all our listeners the story of the Engine 2 diet and how you got into a plant-based lifestyle in the first place?
All right, I'll try and give you the Reader's Digest version here. So it really all started with my father's research going back to 1984, showing that by eating a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet, you can actually metabolize away the plaque formations in the arteries, and you can not only halt your heart disease, but you also can reverse your heart disease. And I was greatly impacted by his thirst for this knowledge. And so I started eating this way in 1987 after I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. And I immediately started a career as a professional triathlete, which is swimming, biking, and running. I decided that for a number of reasons that a whole food plant-based diet was the smartest, strongest way to eat as an athlete. And it helped propel me to become a world-class triathlete, one of the top 10 triathletes in the United States at the international distance, one of the premier swimmers in the sport. And once you realize like all the benefits that you get from eating a whole food plant-based diet, right? Whether it is, it's very alkaline, it's very anti-inflammatory. It, gives you this incredibly healthy microbiome that makes it so you very infrequently, if ever, become sick. And as an athlete, if you can, do these back-to-back workouts and keep, and then recover and then hit it hard again, the more you can do that, the more you can then continue to improve. And so many athletes that I know or knew, they would just get plagued with sickness. You're tearing down your body, you're eating these crappy foods, and you have a weakened immune system. And now before you know it, you've got the flu, you've got a cold, and you're down for a week or two. And you lose so many of the gains that you've worked so hard to get in your training. So, I could go on and on and on about, the plant-friendly proteins, the unprocessed carbohydrates, the essential fatty acids, the vitamins, the minerals, all these things. But just suffice it to say that you're getting all the good and none of the bad when you eat this way as an athlete. And so then I decided that this is really not the Reader's Digest version, is it? And then
well, tell us about how you got it. Like you brought it to your fire station. So what happened there?
Yeah. So in 2003, when I was at Fire Station 2, one of my firefighting brothers was basically a heart attack waiting to happen. And so I challenged this particular individual and the other guys at the firehouse to go plant strong. That's exactly what we did. And we got amazing results. And we started this healthy eating revolution in the most unlikely place imaginable, a firehouse in Austin, Texas. And then that's where the Engine 2 diet was born. We got all this attention because, what firefighters in their right mind would give up, red meat and burgers and chicken and fajitas and Bluebell ice cream Well, I can tell you, ones that want to be healthy, right? And yeah, and so then I got approached by a bunch of literary agents and publishing houses to write a book. And that first book came out in 2009, and it highlights the diseases that are out there that can be prevented by eating this way, and how I got a bunch of firefighters to do this. And I also did a very large, well, I think it was a pretty large pilot study to show the efficacy of eating this way with 62 guinea pigs. And I challenged them to do this for 28 days. And that's why my call to action in the first book is, do this 28-day challenge. And my bet is that your relationship with food will be forever changed. And that came out in 2009. And so anyway, that's kind of the elongated Reader's Digest version.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's go back to your days on a plant-based diet as an athlete, because like you were saying, you found that you were able to recover a lot faster than before, or maybe in comparison to your sort of meat eating counterparts. What was life like for you as an athlete on a meat-based diet? How did it feel different than a plant-based diet?
Well, you're probably not going to like this answer. But the answer is, so when I was at the University of Texas at Austin, I was there on a swimming scholarship. And so I was eating on the athletic training table with the football players, the basketball players, the baseball players, the golfers. And every meal was, it was bacon and eggs. It was omelets. It was hamburgers, chicken fried steak, cheese pizza, soft serve ice cream, as much as you want. And nobody paid any attention to diet back then. We didn't think it did anything for you. But I was also young. I mean, I was 19 to 22 when I was in college, and I started eating this way, a whole food plant-based diet, when I was 23. And I was so young when I was eating all this contraband, all this, this crappy food, that frankly, I got away with it, and it didn't affect me. Right? I mean, when you're young, you can do basically anything and get away with it. And so when I started eating this way, I did it not so much because I felt like, crap eating the way I was eating. I did it because of my father's research at the Cleveland Clinic. And I wasn't so arrogant to think that, I would be somehow immune to heart disease. I did it because of some other triathletes, some of the best in the world, that were eating a predominantly plant-based diet. And so I can't tell you that I felt amazingly well and I recovered faster, because that wasn't the case. But I can tell you I never trained as hard. I kept this. I mean, I really competed at a world-class level for almost 20 years. I started in 1986 and I competed until 1986, 87, until 2006. And I think, into my early 40s. And so at this point in my life, I know nothing else besides eating this way. It's been now over 31 years, which is probably older than you.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. I mean, you started eating a vegan diet when it wasn't cool. You said 1987. I mean, that it wasn't even if you tell people back in 1987 that you're eating a vegan diet, they'd probably look at you with four eyes. And nowadays it's becoming more accepted. So my hat's off to you.
Well, I would say you're exactly right. I mean, it's not only more accepted. I think it's the fastest growing dietary trend out there. We're probably neck and neck with the keto paleo people, right? But I think we all know that they're gonna die off here pretty quick and go back to the Neanderthal era where they belong.
So typically men think that eating plants is feminine. How can men start to think of this approach as eating plants as masculine rather than something that only women do?
I can tell you, let me start off by saying that your real strength should be based upon your search for the truth. And then once you found that truth, then acting upon it. And, obviously you guys have discovered what you believe to be the truth. I've discovered it. And I would tell you that the strongest foods out there come from plants, with the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the beans. And the weakest food are the red meat, the chicken, the fish, the eggs, the dairy products. And it's funny, it's kind of ironic because, we were all raised traditionally thinking that the strong foods were, red meat, loaded with protein, chicken, great protein, low in fat. Not in reality, right? Same thing with fish. Eggs are the perfect protein. Dairy products, God, you can't get enough dairy products for strong bones and a healthy body. Same thing with oils. All these oils are like superfoods, but we now know that all these things are the science actually shows us that this is not the case, that they're actually problematic on a lot of levels. It's not a strong source of protein, and meat has no carbohydrates. You've got weak fats. You've got a combination of trans and saturated fats that our bodies need none of from our food. And they come with, limited amounts of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, no fiber to speak of. So that truly is the definition of a weak food. So when you look at it through the right lens, you'll realize that there's nothing that's really beneficial about it. And it's all been a bunch of marketing hype. And men have been completely duped and bamboozled into thinking that, to be manly, they need to have their ribeye, or they need to have their hamburger or their chicken. And it's a crock, a big crock of baloney. So, and we all know now that, the first sign of heart disease in men is a underperforming penis, which obviously is not very manly at all. And so if you want to be virile and you want to be super manly, you want to eat plant strong foods that will allow as a firefighter, I'll speak, that will allow your hose to do its job, right? To be more than just a watering hose, but to be a true instrument. So you can. That's okay. This is X-rated, right?
This is a great analogy, Rip. This is great.
No, yeah. But so that every man has the ability for their puff the magic dragon to be truly magic and wonderful. So anyway, Robbie, I got a little off course there. But
no, that's great. That's perfect. So, okay, you've coined the term plant strong diet. So what's the difference between a plant strong diet and a plant-based diet?
Well, I think we all know that eating plant-based can mean you're eating diet cheese, and you're eating Beyond Meat burgers, and you're eating fried chips, and you're eating French fries, and all these things may be plant-based, but they are not healthy. They're very refined, processed foods that are nutritionally vacant. And we really want to, by eating a whole food plant strong diet. Plant strong basically means, food as close to grown as possible, minimally processed, that we're ensuring we're getting, all of our plant friendly proteins. We're not doing isolated proteins or concentrates that you're going to find in all these soy dogs, these soy burgers, these soy nuggets, the muscle milk protein shakes, the Beyond Meat burger, where the first ingredient is pea protein isolates, right? We're getting whole proteins. We're getting unprocessed carbohydrates, essential fatty acids. So we're getting our food and we're getting it in this holistic, synergistic fashion, and we're getting all the benefits of it. And the same thing with all the micronutrients. And for your audience members that don't know, basically micronutrients don't have calories, and it's vitamins, it's minerals, it's phytonutrients, it's antioxidants, and it's fiber that are crucial in rescuing our health and reversing all these disease processes, like, for example, right, type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you make that distinction. And so you run health immersions where you teach people how to do the healthy version of a plant-based diet, the plant strong diet. So tell us what kind of results you do see with people living with diabetes.
So, yeah, we've been throwing these healthy eating immersions now for 7 years. We've had probably 1,500 people go through. And these are typically very sick people that need to rescue their health. And so most of these people, they're on usually a cocktail of medications. A lot of the people are type 2 diabetic. We have some type 1 diabetics, but a lot of type 2 diabetics or pre-diabetes. And because these are medical immersions, we also have a medical director there. As you guys know, I'm not a doctor. And for our last couple of immersions, our medical director has been Dr. Michael Clapper, who I'm sure you guys know. And the wonderful thing is, over the course of these 7 days, he has to either titrate people down from their medications. So if you're type 2 diabetic and you're on metformin, right, he either takes you off it completely or he ratchets it down. If you're on insulin, he either, you come down off your insulin, or you bring it down substantially, because you can't be eating all these foods and be on your medications, because you get lightheaded, you get weak, your blood sugar gets too low, whatever. We have people who come in with a fasting glucose of 124, and 7 days later they leave and they're 95, they're 96, they're 97, and they've effectively, they're no longer pre-diabetic, which is pretty phenomenal. But people, we have them eating these bountiful amounts of these buffets of food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all you can eat. And every time we get the results. I mean, it's like we've got if you work the program always works. And because we have them locked away in a jail, like in Sedona, Arizona, they have to be compliant, and they're not cheating. So, yippee.
Let's talk about that a little more. So you say that it's a buffet with unlimited quantities of food. Can you explain why that works for somebody living with diabetes?
Well, it works pretty easily. And the reason is, when you're staying away from the saturated fat, the animal protein, and all these things that basically cause somebody to become insulin resistant, you go from being insulin resistant to insulin sensitive, meaning now all of a sudden the insulin can do its job, which is to unlock the cell door and escort the sugar in. And what we've done effectively is we've metabolized away the excessive fat that are in our 50 trillion plus cells in our body. You guys would probably know better than I would. And now our cells are saying, bring it on, right? Bring it on, bring on the sugar. And now we don't get this backlog of sugar in our bloodstreams. And it's a pretty simple, I think, mechanism that happens. And as you guys know better than anybody, Americans are confused. They have no idea what the true causation is of diabetes. They think it's somehow a sugar issue when we know it's more of a fat issue, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we couldn't agree more. This entire summit is about the fact that this idea that, sugar causes diabetes and carbohydrates are bad for you is fundamentally incorrect from a biological perspective. And what you're saying follows with that, no problem. Now, you travel probably more than almost any human being I've ever met before. You're always on the road. You're either going to immersions or you're on a book tour, you're giving talks. So despite the fact that you're traveling all over the place, you make it a point to make sure that your dietary habits don't change. And in fact, you're very diligent about that. So give our listeners a little bit of tips for what do you do and what can you teach them that would help them maintain a busy lifestyle, especially when they're traveling?
Well, you do what you got to do. And depending upon your condition, I would encourage you to, and if you travel a lot, buy a little rice cooker and travel with it and do your oatmeal in your hotel room, make your rice in your hotel room, carry around some little of these.
Is that a carb?
Yeah, like these little cartons, right? Where you just like, whatever. But yeah, and you can have your beans there. But I make it. I always travel with food. I travel typically with the Rips Big Bowl cereal. If I'm in a pinch, I just put water on my cereal. I'll go to a Starbucks in the airport and I'll buy a banana and put that on there. There's all these Mexican restaurants you can go to now, and you can get rice and beans and different veggie toppings on top of that. The restaurants, whenever you eat out of a restaurant, you're going to get more salt, sugar, and fat than you want, which for your audience, they might want to be really careful about that. But I always ask for what I want. I ask them to make dishes without oil and not use sodium and salt and stuff like that. But you can go Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indian, Thai, and make it work. And everywhere I go, typically Cyrus and Robbie, I typically am speaking at a Whole Foods market store, and so there's all kind of places I can go inside the store to make this work. Whether it's the hot bar, the salad bar, the prepared foods. Some of these places have build your own bowls, all this stuff.
That's great. So behind you, we can see a whole line of food products. So you've created a bunch of Engine 2 products. Tell us about them and where people can get them.
Well, the Engine 2 products embody all the Engine 2 criteria when it comes to plant strong, no added oils, no processed grain or no refined grains. Low sodium, low fat, all these things. And it's a Whole Food Market exclusive brand. We now have close to right around 44 SKUs on the shelf, like 44 products. But we've got hot cereals, cold cereals, granolas. We've got soups, obviously, right? This is our number one selling soup. It's a Firehouse chili. We got a Moroccan stew. We got a 100% whole grain pizza crust. We just came out with some killer raviolis, 4 different types of raviolis, 3 burritos. We've got crisp bread crackers. We got a low sodium veggie broth. It's only 35 milligrams of sodium per serving. I dare anybody out there to find one that's that low. I don't think you'll find it. We got burgers, unlike the Beyond Meat burger, that's about 600 milligrams of sodium per serving, per burger, and has 3 oils in the first 5 ingredients. The Engine 2 burgers are brown rice, black beans, oats, and then usually like caramelized onions, red bell peppers, whole food ingredients, right? And 100 milligrams, 15 to 100 milligrams of sodium per burger, depending upon which one you're getting. So it's a robust line. We're constantly adding products to it, and I'm super, super proud of what we've been able to create here at Whole Foods with the Engine 2 Plant Strong food line.
I love it. I've been eating your products now for probably the better part of a year, and they're tasty. It's like every time you guys come out with something new, I go and I get it, I try it out, and usually most of the time I'm like, wow, this is really tasty. And you were the one that really showed me the power of eating the Rips Big Bowl. And I've been talking about that. What's that?
How's that? What did I do? How did I do that?
Well, when we were hanging out together in person, I asked you like, what do you eat for breakfast? And you were like, oh, I eat a big bowl every single day. And I was like, maybe I should start doing that. And I started doing it. And I don't do it every single morning, but I think they're tasty, very tasty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, it is. I'm wondering, with you and with Robbie, for somebody that's a type 1 diabetic, will like the Rips Big Bowl, does that have any effect on you as far as your glucose level? Or?
Well, one of the things that we teach people how to do in our coaching program is to, somebody with type 1 diabetes, is to really understand what is your carbohydrate to insulin ratio at every meal. So your carbohydrate to insulin ratio differs for breakfast than it does for lunch, than it does for dinner, usually by just a little bit. And we have a process called the decision tree, which enables you to understand what those numbers are.
Yeah.
And so if you really understand how much insulin to give yourself based off of the amount of carbohydrate that you're eating, then it really boils just down to, at this time of day, what's the approximate carbohydrate content of my meal? And then you can do some simple math and get the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's fair game for somebody living with type 1 diabetes. Why? That's plant-based, it's whole food. That's the reason. That's why it works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
tell us about your cookbook, right? You got a brand new cookbook, and, tell us a little bit about it and plug yourself and brag.
I do. Here it is right here. And it's the first true. Yeah. I mean, we got all kinds of wonderful, well, there's not one. But let's see if I can do this here. But like these wonderful photos, right? There's the Sedona sweet potato waffles. And I did this with my sister, Jane, who's helped me with some of my previous books. But it's the first true cookbook that has full length photos. I'd say 75% of the recipes in here have photos. And the subtitle is, more than 130 lip smacking, rib sticking, body slimming recipes to live plant strong. And we've got 7 different sections in the cookbook, everything from, breakfast to sauces and spreads and hummuses, to appetizers and salads. We've got suppers and 1 bowl meals, and of course we have desserts, and we have soups and sandwiches. But it's like this whole cookbook harkens back to the Engine 2 diet and recipes that are kind of man-tastic, also woman-tastic, but that it's not a bunch of rabbit food, turtle food, little wimpy dishes. I mean, this is like, you got the Yo Adrian burger, right? That was created in Philadelphia. You've got epic brats. You've got, waffles and pancakes. And we've got all kinds of these like soups that are so thick you can walk on them, right? We've got all kinds of bowls. We've got like a deserted island soba bowl that was featured on Oprah.com a couple of weeks ago. We've got a Southwestern polenta bowl. One of the things that I discovered in writing the 3rd book, the 7-Day Rescue, is that a lot of people, they don't want to spend time in the kitchen with recipes. And so we created these no recipe rescue bowls where you just kind of take some foundational ingredients, then you take a little bit of, whatever legume you like, 3 different vegetables that you like, and then a spark or a dressing. And then you customize according to your palate, whatever you want. And so we have these 1 bowl meals in this cookbook as well, to kind of go back to the 7-Day Rescue model a little bit. We've got some over-the-top amazing desserts. We've got one recipe called bear scat, right? How cool is that? Bear scat. You guys get it? Bear scat?
Bear scat? No, I don't get it. What does that mean?
Well, bear scat is another word for poop. All right, bear scat. And it's these. You know what? I'm going to leave it at that, and just tell your listeners if they want more, they need to get the book. But we've got oatmeal raisin cookies. We've got chocolate chunk cookies.
Well, tell us what bear scat is. Is it like date nut rolls, or are you talking like little brown things?
It's basically what it is. It's blueberries that you then enrobe in a dark chocolate.
Ooh.
And they are, this is obviously entertainment. It's not something that people should do every day, but maybe on your birthday or something like that. But the combination of the chocolate and the fresh blueberry is an explosive, sublime hit of delectability.
This book sounds incredible. So we're going to make sure it is linked below this video so people can easily click to it, or they just search for the Engine 2 cookbook and they'll find it.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so before we go, the last question we have is, what is the number one problem that you encounter when helping people make lifestyle change, and how do you help them overcome that challenge?
I think the number one problem is that people get in the way of themselves, right? They try and find loopholes. They try and find excuses. So I tell people, you can do this. There's the only person that's going to stop you from doing this is yourself. And if you want to be successful, you want to be part of a community. And so for example, with Engine 2, about a year and a half ago, we created the Engine 2 7-day rescue challenge community on Facebook. It's a private group. We've got close to 30,000 people on it now. And it is truly the most supportive, encouraging, positive, uplifting, vulnerable community that you've ever been a part of. And I think it allows you to understand that you're not alone on this journey. And there's lots of other people that are going through the same trials and tribulations that you are. And when you get to read about all these other people and how they're falling on their faces, they're falling off the engine, but then they're getting right back up. And then 9 months later, they're down 61 pounds and they've reversed their type 2 diabetes, or they're off all their medications. We have people that have dropped 140, 150 pounds in the last year and 3 months. But it's exactly what you guys are doing, Cyrus and Robbie. You guys are creating this community, this support group for people. And so I would tell people, more than likely, you will fail if you don't plug in and you don't become part of a support group. So, you guys have done that with Mastering Diabetes. And my hat goes off to what you guys have done, what you've created, what you're doing. The books you guys are going to write in the future. It's super exciting. And to me, you guys are you're the next wave of pioneering revolutionaries that are going to allow this movement to basically become mainstream. So hats off to my firefighter helmet. I take it off to you two.
Rip, you're the man. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And, we appreciate the fact that what you just said about us trying to lead the revolution to the next generation. Yeah. And, we're trying to build this platform so that it's a really encouraging and positive, message, and that people really feel empowered to be part of it. And I got to say, I love your story. I love the fact that you've been since 1987. How many years is that at this point? 30 years, right? You are such a true pioneer in this field, and I really appreciate all the hard work and effort that you've put into not only making it work for you, writing books, creating food products for people, and really just making it so that people don't have excuses anymore. It really means a lot, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the hard work that you put into this so far.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate it. And thanks, Robbie. Look at Robbie. Look at what's right behind him. All those amazing, plant strong foods, Robbie, that have basically allow you to be the healthiest version of you, right?
Hey, I appreciate it, and that's exactly right. That's the goal here. We want everybody to be the healthiest version of themselves, reach their best health possible, and just thank you again for taking the time to be with us and all your kind words and doing everything you're doing. It means the world.
Yeah. Peace. Engine 2. Plan strong.